Hey, what's up, guys? My name's Kai, and this is going to be our very first episode of ZFactor. Just for some background knowledge, for this first episode, I'm not really going to do too much editing. I'm still like a newbie with using a microphone in the first place. This is like my first time ever doing like recording on a computer, like editing audio software. I'm using an application called Podbean, I think it's called, or no, it's called Podbean, and yeah, it seemed really cool. Like you can upload your audio clips and share them through like other distributors like Apple Music, Spotify. I think Google has their own Spotify platform, or excuse me, Spotify. They have their own like audio book and like podcast sharing platform as well. So I'm gonna try to get as much outreach as possible. I'm gonna try to distribute them to any other apps and any other audio platforms I can, because I really do want to, raise awareness on like what I'm going to be talking about throughout my future podcasts and sessions. For this episode, I'm just going to be talking, mostly because I wanted this episode to serve as an introduction to like what I'm going to be talking about. Many of you are probably wondering why is a 20-year-old guy like wanting to make a podcast? Like, does he have a fucking job? Is he in school? And the answer to that is yes, I'm employed and I do go to school. There's a lot of reasons why I even wanted to start this. Many of you are probably wondering why I even wanted to start this in the first place, and that's a really good question. And I'm mostly going to be talking about that in this first episode. Obviously, as many of you have known and seen, we've gone through like tremendous changes in society. COVID has definitely been, the elephant in the room in regards to like how important social media has gotten in our lives, and which channels we can trust, like what kind of people we can trust when we rely on different sources of information. And I feel like we've become a little bit more divided and a little bit more picky, which obviously can be both a good and a bad thing. However, that's mostly not what I'm going to be talking about on the podcast. I'm mostly going to be talking about more societal issues in terms of like how men and women treat each other, social media use, like gym culture, dating culture, mental illness, and like huge variety of topics that I really want to discuss, because I'm like very, very invested into trying to get as much statistical information, and I'm gonna try to make this pretty unbiased. Like I'm a very moderate guy in terms of politics. I'm not too like left leaning, right leaning. Like I'm pretty moderate. Like I don't really go into politics that much. And I'm gonna try to avoid politics in terms of like how I structure these podcasts. Even though I'll have some guests that may be more political or more, heavily leaning on certain issues, I feel like that sort of stuff is important to get like two sides of the coin. Like I think it's important not to, censor information. I've always been a guy that's, really expressed freedom of speech, and I feel like that's one of the positivities of and like a privilege of having a podcast. Like I'm able to talk about this with you guys. I'm able to talk about different issues, as well as like what my opinion is, as well as like other opinions of guests that I might have in the future. Also, I apologize if the audio is kind of clicky on your end. I don't know how loud or how quiet it is. I've tested it out on my computer multiple times. I've gone through different tutorials on how to like, use noise suppression and like noise reduction techniques. I've kind of become a bit of an Audacity nerd right now. I've learned so many things, on audio manipulation, and a lot of it is actually pretty difficult. And it's really interesting that now I'm kind of taking this as a hobby. Like I like to say this is a hobby because I'm trying to make this channel more educational as well as more like informative. I wouldn't say more educational. I would say more informative and like social. Just because, I'm not like a teacher. I'm not like an instructor or anything. I'm obviously just a third year business student. I'm not really trying to educate anyone. I don't really have a bias, but I do have my own bias. Yeah. Anyways, why did I want to make this podcast in the first place? Well, that is a very good question. Reason number one, what I can think of on the top of my head is just there's just a lot of negativity, man. Like, as you get older, the world becomes a very individualistic. I wouldn't say selfish. I don't like that's kind of a negative connotation, and obviously it is. I don't want to sound like an asshole when I say that. But like you really start to learn like self-improvement. You start to learn like how to care for yourself, and like that's sort of a positive, right? Like, I mean, you are learning how to sustain yourself in a changing world. Like, I think this world is changing. Like, I think every day, like you always get surrounded by information, whether it be politics or, dieting, for example, or I don't know, like gym culture and all that shit where you're bombarded with like fucking Greek gods trying to tell you to take their supplements and like, food, and sometimes they throw you with steroids and you're like, what the fuck? Like, get this shit off my feed. Like, why is Instagram showing me this? And we're surrounded by algorithms and media constantly. Like, we're living in a digital age now where it's not just adults like us that are, being shown different parts of media, where it'd be video, music or books, even though I don't think anyone knows how to fucking read a book anymore. Anyways, yeah, like, like kids are being introduced to, phones and technology, and I'm not a boomer. I'm not like, as cheesy as that sounds, like I do think the phone is an important asset in society. However, I do feel like it's just kind of out of control right now. It's just fucked. I think society is just kind of digging itself a hole in terms of, what we want and what we don't want. I feel like society is very much leaning towards the individualistic side, like selfish, like what I talked about before. I feel like it's made us more picky in social circles. I feel like it's made us more miserable, and a lot of people can argue, the differ, which is like totally fair. I'm not saying everything is negative. I'm going to be talking about like positives too. But I did want to make this podcast to address the negatives, because I feel like right now the negatives outweigh the positives right now in the environment that we live in. And I feel like they don't get spoken enough, like in today's conditions. And I feel like there's a lot of censorship that goes down into what we do want to talk about, what the media controls. And but you might think that sounds like very fucking weird, but like there is a lot of things that kind of get swept under the rug, like whether it be mental health or I don't know, just it's a majority of mental health, right? Like we're like, humans are social creatures. Like, we need interaction. We need we need to fulfill desires at some points in our lives, like healthy desires. We need healthy coping mechanisms. We need healthy habits, and like humans need habits in their life. Like they need routine. We're used to routine, and humans are used to following trends, traditions, like cultures as well. Like we're always changing. We're always going through different changes in our lives, where that'd be like socially, mentally, like what I just talked about before in the beginning. Like COVID was probably the biggest. I don't know why we keep living through these fucking events, man, but COVID definitely was one of those, just one of those things that like just really messed up a lot of things for kids in my generation, as well as like pretty much everyone else. Like I'm not saying that it was just me, like it's everyone. Like a lot of people died, and a lot of people faced a lot of mental illness. 2020 is my grad year. I never got a graduation. I never got to see my teachers for the last time. I never got to see my friends for the last time. Yeah, like it really sucked. And it sucks now more that as like you get older, that you have to like make yourself acquainted with the changes in life. I know that didn't really quite make sense, so I'm gonna like try to restructure that. Like we got to learn to adapt and like survive in the environment we're in. Like, whether it be COVID, whether it be the media, like we always got to surround ourselves with people that make us a better person. And I feel like the way to do that is to become more critical, like in our thinking skills. I feel like we have to be more critical on like what kind of media we consume. But with that being said, however, I feel like we should also be open to like different opinions. I feel like we should be able to, talk to different people that may have different values and opinions, like through media as well as like real life. I feel like we can't just be stern and like be an asshole whether someone doesn't like, I don't know, for example, like a different type of fruit. You're like, what the fuck? You like mangoes? Why do you like mangoes? You're a weird ass person. It's like, well, no, like some people just like strawberries over mangoes. Like it's not fucking weird. And that's a really shitty analogy, but I mean, like in terms of different issues we talk about, like it's kind of true. Like it's kind of relatable. Like some of these issues are not too big, and we're like throwing each other down in the media like all the time over these small things. And a lot of these small things also make people bitter, like mentally as well as like internally, like yeah, not just the media, like in the real world too, like become more like distasteful with people. So in regards to that, like I feel like we should just be critical, but also just open. Like just think common sense, just think rationally. I think that's not really talked about a lot. Also, like going down a completely different rabbit hole, like another reason why I wanted to make this podcast is because fucking like these big corporations, these big apps that play a role in our mental health and the social aspects of people, like it's gotten out of control. I'm specifically TikTok and Instagram, Snapchat, like all these big apps. And hypocritically, yes, I do use social media. I do have Instagram and Snapchat. However, I have developed habits and routines, and I've limited my screen time. And I really want to go in depth in that with another episode. I feel like limiting screen time is very essential to happiness, as well as living a fulfilling life, as well as like focusing on your goals and other important things. I feel like TikTok and those big apps, I feel like they've just rewired the dopamine release systems in our brains. Like I'm not a scientist, so don't quote me on anything. Like you can if you want, or like you can think critically. That's the whole reason why I'm making this podcast. Like not everything I say is going to be right. Not everything I say is going to be wrong. like this is an opinion based show. Like I'm the one talking, I'm the one expressing what I think. um Many of you could probably agree, many of you will disagree, that's fine. Anyways, yeah, like, you know, we're so used to instant gratification, and TikTok has definitely did that. I have never made a TikTok account in my life. I've never touched it, never downloaded it, and I'm not saying that to be, like saying that as a flex. I'm not saying that to like make anyone feel bad. Like, okay, that's fine if you download TikTok. Like, that's great. I mean, I'm not going to see you any differently. I'm definitely not going to treat you any differently. However, I am going to tell you to get that shit off your phone because I really do feel like it's an awful app. I was just watching Bill Maher tonight. He's a very funny comedian, but he also goes in depth of like politics, and sometimes social aspects. And social aspect he's talking about was TikTok. Like, why is it becoming such a phenomenon to like have your algorithm like become so smart? Like, it knows exactly what you want to watch. It knows exactly what you've seen, how much time you've seen the video, specifically what you like to see, and it knows the exact time of when you like click off the video, as well as like your keystroke patterns and what kind of things you bought. Like, there's a lot of different fucking things that TikTok does that is extremely shady, and that's exactly why the United States is like trying to restrict it. And I believe they did on government issued phones, but obviously it's still not restricted because there's millions of people on it every day, right? And as well as like on the political side of it, like, yeah, like China owns it, I believe. One of the shareholders owns like a third of the entire company, and they have 8% stock in the, I think it's called BitDance. I think that's what the shareholder company is called. Anyway, yeah, one of those shareholders is a communist, like a very strong communist, like Chinese communist. And yeah, like I'm going into the politics of it. I don't think communism is a good thing. I don't think it is. Don't know what you guys think. Obviously, I think it's just not a good fucking political system at all. And it kind of stresses me out a bit. Well, honestly, I'm just going to be honest. Like, the political side of it, I don't think China gives a shit about what the Americans like. I do think they're just using the app as like a distraction tool to sort of like manipulate what kids watch and like what kids should watch. I think it's kind of just mind numbing them. I feel like the app is just like, another reality TV shitbox that like a mother will watch. I feel like it's just sort of there to kind of numb your mind and sort of take your mind off shit, which, sounds healthy. Like, it sounds like a coping mechanism, but I feel like it's just gone out of control. I know those past things I said were kind of ridiculous, like, but social media, it's such a toxic thing. It's such a double-edged sword, and a lot of people are hypocritical about it. Like, we've all used it. We've all been subject to using it. And like, I will be honest, like, I have taken news from Instagram before. I have like blindly agreed with different topics, and I'm just happy that I learned to, read better sources first before I make up an opinion on an Instagram caption. And I feel like we need to, read more in depth of what the fuck is going on in our world, because a lot of people do not do that. They don't. And that's very scary as well. Like, we need to do better. And a lot of people like to argue that bullying doesn't exist anymore, and I think it is true. Like, people are too scared to talk to anyone nowadays. You think a kid's gonna fucking punch a dude? Nah, like there's no fights at all. There's no fights at all. All of them are like, I think all of them are pretty much staged. Like there's no fucking physicality anymore in schools. People are too soft anyway. I feel like that's never gonna happen in a long time. But I do feel like bullying has definitely gone more to like cyberbullying. People are like, "Oh, you're getting cyberbullied? Like, turn off your computer. Like, you won't see it." It's like, well, yeah, no shit. Like, obviously anyone can do that, but I don't even think it's cyberbullying anymore. I think it's just more. Fuck, I'm like trying to think of a word. It's like something aggressive. Oh, passive aggressive. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, the media is so more leaning towards like passive aggressive attitude, as well as like, it's not so much making fun of people. I'd say it's more like making yourself feel different by making fun of people who are different. It's like, you're not any different than any of us. Like, you're not making yourself feel better by, calling someone like a fucking idiot just because they think that bread tastes good. And again, another shit ideology and analogy, but like, you get the picture. I don't want to spit some problem that may offend anyone. So some of these things I've said are like kind of awkward. Like, this is like my first time recording. All right, so like, don't fucking come at me right away. But yeah. Anyways, also, like, in regards to social media, it's also a good thing. It's also let me be able to express my opinion and my thoughts. And, we've come a long way in the past 10 years. Like, 10 years ago, like, podcasts were popular. 10 years ago, Instagram was just a new thing, like just a new tool. I think Snapchat was too. I think Snapchat released 12 years ago. And yeah, we just become more digital. Like, we're more on our phones and we're not talking to people. And it's made us more introverts. Not that being an introvert is a bad thing. I'm an introvert. More so an ambivert, however. Like, do you guys remember being like in grade school, like in a classroom, and the class was just so loud? Like, kids were just nonstop talking, nonstop, being fools, shenanigans just going around, like fucking paper airplanes flying everywhere. I know I'm looking through this like through rose-colored goggles. However, I think you guys sort of get the point. Like, when we were a little bit younger, I mean, we were still talking to people next to each other, and yeah, it's completely different from grade school to high school and college. Like, you're in the same classroom, like, no matter what. However, in my grade school, like, you were in different classrooms, but you still had the same like homeroom. Anyways, what I was talking about, like, yeah, like, kids were much more louder, and like, people are like talking to each other, and like, now you go into a classroom and it's like no one speaks a word. Like, it's just dead silent. Like, you can drop a coin and hear it. Like, I think people should try to introduce themselves more. Like, I try to do that. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. It's up to you to how you determine success. I think success is when you meet a new friend, or you learn something new about someone, whether that would be like their name, like the simplest thing is their name, or what kind of things they like. And it doesn't have to be a girl, it can be a guy too. Like, it's anyone, really. Like, I feel like we're just all so desensitized. Like, we don't even have the nerve to like talk to our fucking teacher for help. Like, people don't even raise their hand anymore. Like, I think people are just scared of looking bad. And I think that's not a good thing. I like, we should be able to learn. We should be able to, have empathy. We should be able to see flaws in people, and not even flaws, That's sort of a bad word, but like we should be able to, yeah. Well, I mean, just learn from our mistakes. That's all about, Whether that be raising your hand in a classroom or making an awkward moment in a classroom or a podcast, like having awkward pauses when you're trying to think of shit. Like it happens. And I feel like we're trying to be too perfect. So just fuck all that, fuck what people think in the media, just introduce yourself, talk about what you like. And the whole theme of this podcast is just to be yourself. Don't give a fuck if you get hate, because that's always going to happen. Think for yourself and think critically. Be yourself. There's nothing wrong with who you are, unless you are, I don't know, a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are pretty fucking scary. I don't want to be a dinosaur. Actually, nah, I'd be like a pterodactyl, I think. I want to be able to fly, to be honest. What kind of dinosaur do you guys want to be? A lot of people want to be a Triceratops or a T-Rex. And you have those small ass arms. And you kind of look like an idiot. But yeah, like, be yourself. That's all that counts. And I think we see that, in the dating culture as well. Like, people trying to pretend to be who they're not. And then that kind of bites them, like it stabs them in the back later on. Again, there's a whole lot of analogies, whole lot of stories I can bring up. However, this one episode, I just wanted to give you an overall theme and an overall subject of what I wanted to present for my future episodes. Obviously, like I just said, there's not going to be like too many positive things on my podcast, but there is going to be some fun podcasts where I'm going to have friends on and we're going to talk about not just issues. We're going to be talking about like our experiences and what we think of my questions, my background, and yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, and I'm sorry if the audio is not too quiet or not too loud. I'm gonna run it over again through Audacity. I'm gonna double check that the audio is good. I think I have a little bit of static feedback coming back from my mic, but honestly, I don't think this is gonna get too popular. I don't mind it if it gets popular, and I'm really confident in myself that this will get some sort of reach, because there isn't too many channels that are talking about issues like what I'm going to present. I'm very confident that my notes and my research are going to outweigh the fake stuff that's spreading around. And by fake stuff, I just mean negativity and just influencers, the influencer shit. I feel like my content is going to be way better than that. And this is just the start. Like, this is a journey for me. I'm honestly really excited to see where this leads. I'm recording in my dorm right now. I'm recording on a $80 audio mic from Amazon. Like, it kind of goes to show, like, anyone could do this. And anyone could do anything. Anyone could do anything they want. And I think that's important. And you guys should know that too. Like, you can do anything. If I can record a podcast on a shitty microphone, on a school laptop, in a residence dorm, then you can too, okay? So yeah, hope you guys enjoy listening to this, and I hope you guys stay tuned for more episodes. Let me know if you guys would like to like have me make a social media account. Like I've been thinking of making a social media account for this, but maybe only if it becomes popular. Like my name's Kai, as you guys know. I have my own personal Instagram account. However, I am considering making a like more media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Cause I'm trying to get more outreach. I'm trying to get more people. Doesn't matter who, like literally anyone, like include everyone. And yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it, guys. I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll let you guys know when future episodes are gonna be released. Oh, and again, awkward silence. Shit. What I forgot to say is that I'm using Podbean for my podcast. However, it takes time for them to get distributed through Spotify and other media platforms. It actually takes quite a bit of money. Like I had to pay like a $240 deposit just to get unlimited audio access for like my files to be decoded into an RSS file format, which means like before you upload anything to any media platform, you need a specific audio file for them to be encrypted. And for those files to be encrypted, you gotta like put the MP3 audio through the website like Podbean that I'm using, and then that's obviously how the business gets money. It makes it easier for the person who's recording this to upload it. So yeah, maybe you guys will be listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music soon in the future, and this will just be the start. And I hope you guys have a good night. Bye.